I made this for you. It's a friendship bracelet.
Because you're my best friend.
G'day. I'm Sam Edmonds.
I'm Paul.
And welcome to the Underrated, Overrated Dumpster Fire podcast, the podcast / YouTube video experience where we take an album every week and we have a chat about it, whether we think it's underrated, whether we think it's overrated, whether we think it's a genuine dumpster fire. And this year it's been me and Paul hanging out on the couch talking music with you guys. But we've got our first guest for the year.
Yay.
My lovely wife, Dr. Kyria Webster.
Hello.
How you going?
Also, this is Hendrix.
This is Hendrix the dog.
But he tried to bark for podcasters, but he won't do it on cue.
Yeah.
No.
He's not
I
well
like
trained.
that we get to introduce a guest as Doctor.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
It makes me feel fancier. You're not a doctor in music.
No, I'm not. No, it does need to come with the caveat of it's not in any way an arts doctorate.
Yeah.
It's neuroscience, which doesn't help in this in any way. But
You're not the kind of doctor that we can be like, oh, you're relevant to the show. Or the kind of doctor that you're on a plane and someone's like, this is an emergency.
I'm unhelpful in both situations.
Yeah, can't do those.
Yeah. But I can, tell you a lot about the frontal lobe. And it's really, again, not helpful.
But what she can also tell us a lot about is the album that we're talking about this week, which is Billie Eilish's When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? And we're doing that because recently The World's a Little Blurry, the Apple TV music original documentary thingy, What's It, got released. And we watched that this week and we thought it'd be a great opportunity to revisit the 2019 album and have a chat, see whether we think it's underrated, overrated, or a dumpster fire. Kyria, when was the first time you heard this album?
So the album in full, the first time I heard it was, and this is going to be a bit of a humble brag, but on a plane. That's right, jet setter. It was pre-COVID, I promise.
On a what?
Yeah, we've all forgotten what planes are. No, I was on a plane and I'd obviously heard singles from the album, heard Bury a Friend and Bad Guy and really liked them. Actually, the first time I heard Bad Guy was in the now defunct Clear It store in Brunswick. Very sad it's gone.
Brunswick should rest in peace.
Yeah, I used to very much live out of that place. But first heard it there and then, on a plane going from Barcelona to Rome, I downloaded it and wanted to listen to it on the way and was like, I love these songs and I know she's, 16 at the time, 17 maybe.
Yeah.
But I was like, got to listen to it. And got off the plane and was like, cool, can we get back on the plane so I can listen to it 3 more times?
Yeah. No, that all seems fair. The other thing that people might know about Kyria is that she makes a damn good margarita.
That's right.
We're recording this during Mardi Gras, and I'm not homophobic. I just prefer beer. But we're recording this during Mardi Gras, so they've made some Mardi Gras-ritas.
Mardi Gras-ritas.
While we have a chat about Billie. Paul, when was the first time you heard this album?
I thought you were about to ask me what the first time I had a margarita was. The first time
2 hours ago.
Yeah.
I had 9 of them.
Yeah.
That's what Mardi Gras is for.
I remember hearing a couple of the singles.
Yep.
And I feel a little bit ashamed that it took me a little bit to warm up to Billie Eilish.
Yeah.
It wasn't I remember people raving about her. Like, amazing. Really, really good. We've just told Kyria it's okay to swear in the podcast and I've just censored myself. But I remember like taking a while to warm up.
Yep.
And then there was one day I remember I heard Bad Guy. I think it was on the radio and I must have had it turned up louder than I'd ever had it turned up before. And I went, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
And it was great. But I don't remember sitting down and listening to this album start to finish till this week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't.
That's
think
really interesting.
I went through the whole thing, so I've had a very different experience. Like I reckon I'd listened to 90% of the tracks individually.
Yep.
But hadn't just sat down and gone, "Here's an album, let's listen to it." Which I don't know if. Due to that, spoilers, I'm overrating this album because this is the first time I've sat down.
Week, so there could be some recency bias potentially.
There could be some recency bias. There could be. But I've heard all the tracks before and it did take me a while to warm up. So there's some context as well.
Cool. So for those, again, I say it every week. If you've been living under a rock, Billie Eilish is the biggest thing in the world at the moment, and her and her brother recorded this album in 2019. When we fall asleep, where do we go? Which was a line from one of the songs.
Can we just address the fact that you've said that a couple of times now?
Yep.
And both times were very cheery, which is not really indicative of the intention of that statement. But you've been like, where do we go?
Where do we go? Do we have lovely dreams? Sorry, the Wiggles did like a version this week, so I'm very positive.
You've just spoiled my what did you listen to this week? Because I was going to say the Wiggles. We're going on a bear hunt.
So worth it.
Yeah. So in 2019,
for this album. I'm so sorry, Billie, that's not listening. It's great.
So back in 2013, Billie released when she was 13 years old.
Was it 2013?
Yeah,
you're gonna say
she released sound on SoundCloud. She released Ocean Eyes. She was 13 years old, and Phineas had produced it, and she had sung on it, obviously, and helped write the song and lyrics and the rest of it.
I've just had a realization that she's 10 years younger than me, and I'm feeling really gross now.
We'll guess our ages below. But so she released this song, became a smash hit, slowly kind of drip-fed singles through the next 4 or 5 years, increasing her kind of fan base, songs like Bellyache and a collaboration called Burn with Vince Staples and a couple of other cool tracks. And then obviously labels signed her for obvious reasons. She is a firebrand. She speaks her mind. She sings her mind. She dresses in a way that other pop stars of her age and stage don't.
Yep.
She sings about really dark themes, does it quite eloquently, and uses a lot of black humor. Just seems like a real unicorn in a world that was between Lord albums. And
we still are.
Yeah. And her and Phineas, her brother, who is her producer and songwriting collaborator, sat down and crafted this album. And it's been kind of shrouded in some secrecy. They've talked about it, obviously, online and in interviews with Fallon and that sort of thing. But that these two very young people were able to create this album has been a bit of a mystery, I guess, for most people in the world until this week when they released All the World's, or the World's a Little Blurry,
yep.
the Apple TV doco about the recording of it. We watched that this week to prep for the podcast. Were there some things that you saw in that, Kyria, that you found really, really interesting about their process?
About their writing process?
Yeah. Or just things you found interesting generally even?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I found a lot of that documentary really interesting. I think there's always been some conjecture about parts of it. I think I'd gotten a bit of a better idea from the Song Exploder episode where they did Everything I Wanted.
Yep. Our podcast colleague, Rishikesh.
Colleague Rishikesh Hiway. I would love to say that he was
that we
our
were
colleague.
part of Radiotopia, please.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Rishikesh Hiway and pretty much all of his work. But they did talk a lot about some of the stuff that was going on with that, and that was a song that Phineas really adamantly rejected from that album for reasons that you can kind of tell from the documentary, but that they don't go into.
Yeah. So that was Everything I Wanted.
Yes.
Yep.
But if we just start off with the songwriting process, I mean, I think that the thing that was really interesting is it makes me feel better about my songwriting process, being that it's very haphazard and a little bit chaotic, organized chaos, I guess. Phineas is very much a more organized side of it, and Billie very much more the chaotic ingenue, who, yeah, it's
which is French for engineer, I presume. Ingenue.
No.
Not even a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Think the opposite of an engineer.
Okay.
Yeah. Possibly, yeah. But yeah, look, it's that in and of itself I found really interesting. Obviously there's a lot of people who have very different processes. I think in some ways there's actually pretty fast, going from start to finish in terms of conception. But there's a lot along the way, and because they're constantly tackling about 18 things at the same time, it's a bit like me with books. It takes me forever to finish them because I'm on 6 of them at a time. So yeah.
I thought it was interesting, like saying that,
it can be a bit chaotic and organized chaos. I thought it was really interesting because Billie and Phineas obviously wrote the album together.
Yeah.
And they've both got very different songwriting procedures or like methods. And it might just be that, and it gets touched on in the documentary that, or movie or film or whatever they're calling it.
Yeah.
The
Subsequent movie film.
Yeah. So,
Apple TV experience.
Phineas enjoys writing songs.
Yeah.
And like he's quite good at writing songs, like that part of creating a song.
Yeah, I think
is
I know where
that
you're going
writing
with this
songs.
as well.
Billie does it.
She hates it.
Hates it.
And says it several times. I hate writing songs.
Writing songs.
I like playing them. I like singing them. I like performing them. I hate writing them.
However, as a creative individual, she's got some really strong opinions about what she's doing. And there's certain points, and I love this, and I reckon it's one of the reasons the album turned out so great.
Yeah.
Is that there's Phineas going, we need to write a really good song here. And Billie going, well, don't fuck with my idea. I've got this idea, and we're doing that. I don't care that you can and want to write a hit. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in doing the thing that I thought about. Let's make that happen. And there's this real tension there. And it's not a tension in the way that they're not getting along, which I think makes it even better. But there's two sides to that, and they balance each other out as opposed to fight against each other.
And there's a real understanding of each other there. And that scene you're talking about, they're in a kitchen. Well, it's really Phineas and his parents in a kitchen. And Phineas is talking to them about how he basically has to broach the topic with. He has to make her write a hit without telling her that the label wants them to write a hit because she's going to hate that and she doesn't want to do that. And he's kind of trying to care for her output whilst caring for what the product that the label is going to want to put out. So there is a lot of care in it. And I think that's something that I wasn't surprised by, but I really enjoyed looking at, is that there is an immense amount of care involved with everyone around them.
It was really nice to see, and I think we've chatted about this recently, Sam, about how you hear all the time about bands that go, oh, the record label, it's, they're putting all this pressure on me. They wanted this, and that was why the album turned out shit. And they didn't have that. One, because her producer's her brother. But like they understand that, and they're going, okay, well, we're seeing different sides of this coin here, but we both understand that this is a dollar coin and that we're going to make this work. So that's fine. Like Billie's like, well, don't fuck with my idea, but I understand that you're going to do a thing and make the song a hit. Yeah. That's cool.
And it's a heady thing to observe in person like that, in how it was done in World's a Little Blurry, because and cheers.
Sorry, continue, Sam. We're just having our own little Mardi Gras party over here.
Because we haven't really had that sort of insight into dual songwriters like that before. In like, we're still waiting on the Jagger Richards tell-all Apple TV documentary, and we're never going to get the McCartney-Lennon one.
Please, we're still waiting on the actual Freddie Mercury one.
Mercury May, it's interesting to see. And obviously this is a debut album too, so this is a writing partnership that, it's been going since she was 13, but it's still a very new one. And I think it was so amazing as creators, the three of us, and for probably others that watched it as well that create things, to see, haphazard was one of the words that was used, but the tension and how these sorts of things happen. What I want to kind of bring it back to with this album was the quality of what was produced is reasonably stunning. Like
reasonably stunning.
Is that the name of this podcast?
Reasonably stunning.
Hi, I'm Paul, and this is Sam. Welcome to Reasonably Stunning.
And it's pretty crazy, the quality of these tracks for how young they are, how little they've been doing it. Also, like where they did it, it was like literally a bedroom. Like that you could hardly move in because of the instruments and the bed and like.
Oh, let's not even get started on that. I can't. So we've spoken before, like we've mentioned Dave Grohl a few times on this podcast. There it is. I don't think Smash Mouth's going to come up this time.
And then it is. There it is.
Smash Mouth, everyone.
It's going to come up.
No, but like Dave's like, oh yeah, I just recorded this in my garage. And you're like, yeah, but your garage is a recording studio, mate. Yeah. And like, Phineas has got a lot of gear, but you look at it and it looks like a teenager's bedroom.
Yeah.
And like that's so refreshing to see because you're like, oh yeah, we recorded this in our bedroom. And
Some of
like,
it on tour buses.
Yeah.
Like between like mattresses. Some
you
of
see
it
them
like in
writing a
hotel
Bond
rooms.
song
Yeah.
on like recording it to voice memos on their iPhone.
And going into the bus because it's more ISO than being in the green room. There's going to be too much noise in the green room, so they have to go and crawl up underneath in the bus so that they can get some kind of...
Billie's putting a towel over her head.
Oh, that scene was hilarious.
I don't know if you're going to get to this. I'm just getting really excited about this album again. But there's a care that they've put into every single track on this album that means, hey, this is haphazard and this is chaos. But, you know, although I'm recording the demo that we're sending to the record label on an iPhone and we're sending that, we're still taking the care to go into the tour bus because it's a better recording environment than the green room.
And do several takes to try and get that moment.
To get it right. So they're taking, even though things are chaos and all over the place, and Billie's recording her vocals that made it to the album hunched up, like, you know, terrible, like, position and like, no one else records like that. Like they, you know, they make sure, oh yeah, maybe I came up with a song idea like that, but you know, now I'm going to stand up straight and make sure.
90s grunge artists. That's about it. And it, even then, like now we have people trying to replicate that, and they'll pretend like they're doing that, but they don't do that.
Well, that's probably a good segue, like to jump in. So, you were saying, Paul, the attention to detail in the production is second to none, but it's still quite sparse to take advantage of the fact that nobody sounds like Billie sounds. Kyria, you're a singer. Can you talk to her command of harmony? Like things like at the start of To Bury a Friend, the harmony, it almost sounds like an electric piano, like arranged chords, but it's literally her and Phineas's voice. Like how do people do that?
Well, for starters, like that.
Okay.
So, her command of harmony is not one of a singer. It's one of a musician, primarily a pianist. She understands it from her learning the piano and playing the piano. And that's where they really attack the harmonies from primarily. And then they sing it through that way. But it's one of those things that you do see more rarely in, I guess... I don't want to throw shade or anything, but younger pop artists, it's something that they really look at it from a vocal standpoint, which usually gets you at most a 3-part harmony of a chord.
Yeah.
Whereas what you're getting is passing notes, juxtaposed harmonies to melodies. You're actually getting something that has its own line.
Yeah.
And has its own voice underneath whatever melody you have that's running. So.
And then Phineas uses the stereo field to envelope you in her voice so that when little parts come in and out, they feel so important to the song. But they could be like many notes away from what the core melody is, but they feel so essential. And because of how sparse the production is, it's a pretty amazing achievement because I think... Like you said, when you look at modern pop production now, or like modern pop singers, you know, it's thirds and fifths. It's very basic verse, chorus, bridge, chorus structure. That seems to be the norm. And you just don't get nuanced tracks like this. And then you don't get them as big as they are. Like something like Bad Guy, like Ariana Grande is not recording a song like that. Like as much as I love the latest Dua Lipa album, she's not doing... Bury a Friend.
These are great. Like I really rate Dua Lipa. Ariana Grande can sing. Like the girl can sing. Like she can do all of those things, but she's not. And like she's got way more production people around her and producers and all
and
this
songwriters.
And actual songwriters.
Yeah.
2 people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, maybe try this. Yeah, cool, great. I'll do that. Bang, first take. Looks amazing. Hunched up in a bedroom.
And then does 15 more takes, even though the first one was sublime.
Yeah.
One quote that really shocked me when I was doing the research was that because it's ubiquitous. A lot of people talk about autotune and they say, "Oh, you know, it's ruining music." Rah, rah. If you put a song down in the comment below, it'll be auto-tuned. Just think of one. Such was the commitment to Billie being able to tell people that it wasn't, they would record hundreds of takes because she didn't want a single note, apart from in 8, where it's obviously done for effect, auto-tuned at all, which, again, is another testament to her singing prowess.
Yeah. It is a testament to that. It is also something that I think does come from a place that you just touched on, which is that there is still a ridiculous stigma around autotune. And like Sam said, find any song, there's going to be autotune on it. And my rule is, if it's good enough for Lady Gaga, it's fucking good enough for me.
It's a good rule to live by.
Yeah.
And, just because you've auto-tuned something doesn't mean the person can't sing. Like,
I mean, granted,
exactly.
Lady Gaga doesn't wear pants, so apparently pants aren't good enough for me.
Well, that's a great point. Just because you auto or pitch correct somebody doesn't mean they can't sing. That's 100% for Paul. So come over to our house sometime. We'll have Kyria run a verse, and then we'll have Sam run a verse, and then we'll run auto-tune on it. And you'll very easily be able to tell who the better singer is. Yeah. Despite having put, the best pitch correction plugin that I can. It's not going to fix bad technique.
All right, here's another thing, and this might be another big plus for the album and Billie's credentials for the album, is that, you can auto-tune something, but you need to have written it first.
Yes.
What are you auto-tuning it to?
Yeah.
Particularly when you're talking about the harmonies and the way that they've done their harmonies, it's not just cool, we're doing a third here and that's a bit shit. It's not shit, it's fine and it's widely accepted as, cool, do a harmony, you're probably picking a fifth or whatever.
Yeah.
But for them to be creative enough to think more than that first bit, and they're thinking and then singing the melodies that you're not going to do with a stock standard 4/4 pop tune.
Yeah.
And auto-tuning it. That's fixing something, or not even fixing it, but just pulling something a little bit tighter. Because 9 times out of 10, that's what it's doing. It's just tightening a few strings here and there. And they've just gone, you know what, let's be really fucking good.
Yeah, it's a attention to the craft and attention to detail that maybe you don't get if you've got 6 weeks in a major studio. No. But when you have a year, and they were given a year to do it in their house, in hotel rooms, in tour buses, and you get that ability and that trust. The amount of trust the label gave a 17-year-old and a 21-year-old is pretty crazy.
It is surprising. But going back to the vocals as well, she does actually touch on, when she's doing the Bond song, she touches on belting, which is something that people have kind of suggested about her voice, made, comments about, sure, she can sing like this, but it's not like she can belt, or it's, let's try and hear her do this kind of thing. And there is I don't want to say preconception. There's, I guess, a general idea within the population that belting is something that I guess the pinnacle of pop music or whatever, but also that it has more control over the voice, which is to an extent true, particularly for, someone like me.
I feel Adele or Winehouse, or
there's definitely parts of your voice that you get more control over in belting. There's also other parts you have way less control over. But the way she sings, that very soft approach, it does allow her to be more malleable with her melodies. But at the same time, she manages to get a control over that is quite difficult to get. There is a technique in there that a lot of people can't master and do actually have to push harder into. And most singing teachers will kind of get you to do that. They'll tell you, okay, really kind of build from the diaphragm and push it out. Push it out towards
constant airflow.
If you're going into something like opera, for starters, you're not in your chest voice, you're in your head voice for the entire time. But there is, in operatic technique, less of that. It's not so much about pushing it outwards. In fact, it's about creating it here. So you'll have opera technicians will have like a training technique where they have a candle and they hold the candle about this far away. You can't see on the podcast, but
like a microphone, like
about a microphone away from your face.
Yeah.
And you have to sing and you can't have the flame waver because the air can't go forwards. It has to be created and to sit around in your mouth. And as it comes out, it has to sit. So that's something that they're really high level technicians.
Yeah.
And what she's doing is really working on that kind of style in her voice, but in her chest voice. So
Which is insane.
it is insane. It's very, very difficult to have that kind of control, particularly at an earlier age.
Yeah, this is something, and I think the first time I heard Billie Eilish, and as I said previously, I took a while to warm up to Billie Eilish, is that I was like, oh, here we go. There's another pop star with an overly stylized vocal.
Yep.
Like
She uses a lot of proximity effects. So like when you're closer to the microphone, it produces an extra bass response that you just wouldn't get further away.
Yeah, but like that's like mic technique's a crucial part of singing.
Yeah.
It's like you know being
Yes,
a guitar
so much more than
player,
people
Realize.
It's insane. So like being a guitar player, you can get like me and you could play the same thing the same way and it will sound different because we hold the pick and attack the strings differently.
Yep.
Even though we're hitting the same notes in the same time with the same effects and the same guitar,
Yep.
it will sound different. It will sound better when Sam plays it. It's going to happen.
Maybe.
And it
Depends how many of these I've had.
and it might sound, and I'll sound better the more of them I've had. Those were the beers for those listening.
And I'll sound better the more of them you've had.
Yeah, good job distracting me from my point. But no, she's. So I thought it was one of these overly stylized pop vocals, like who's big ethereal singer. We're moving on.
Wow, there's a lot there that you can go
Florence?
Yeah, like Florence and the Machine.
with. That's what you meant by ethereal? She's a belter.
There's a bunch that are just like a bit like. This shows how much I'm just like, oh, I don't care about this because you're just all that's interesting is your slightly quirky voice.
Yeah.
But, so when I first heard Billie,
Sure,
that,
You
okay,
kind of
yeah,
put
yeah.
her
I know
into
what you
that
mean.
sort
you know
of.
what? Yeah,
I do,
like
yeah.
it's an invalid opinion. It's not good because some of these people are incredibly talented, but
But also there is a worry that you can hide a lot with an interesting voice.
yeah.
And you can often find that you're giving yourself away as a one-trick pony.
Oh,
So,
100%.
for an example of that, to back up your point as well, Paul,
Yeah.
I listened to the new Julian Baker album this week.
Yeah.
I really love Julian. I think she's a great lyricist and a great songwriter. I really struggle to listen to her voice because I find it incredibly annoying because she does some of these things that are lazy.
Yeah.
Like lazy techniques that she must really like the sound of and how it, but they
It might
they
be
get
a
in the way of
producer's
the
thing
song
as well.
for me.
Like producers and record people are going to say, "This is your sound. This is why you're popular.
Yeah.
Just keep doing that. We don't care about the song.
Yeah.
What we care about is that thing that identifies you as you.
Yeah.
Is prominent." And that was my first impression. Oh, Billie Eilish is just going to be one of these people.
Yeah.
And like maybe it was Ocean Eyes I heard or whatever, and I just thought that, and it turns out I was wrong.
It's nice, though. It's nice to be proven wrong in those situations
it's
because,
delightful.
yeah, it's one of those things that you do want to be on edge about because you don't want to get too invested in this
Yeah.
person as someone to really kind of put your time into and put your energy into and then find out that they have one album in them.
Yeah, and it's what I found listening more to Billie was that she's got a style about how she sings, but there's more depth to it and like more strength in the vocal than I expect. And you do hear it like on the Bond song, where she ventures to the belting thing. You go, oh, you can do it, you just don't like to.
Yeah.
Like that's a preference, not a challenge.
Yes.
Like that's
Absolutely.
that's all it is. And there's things she's able to do with her voice that's more than a one trick pony style. It's not a stylistic thing. It's that you're choosing this, and there's positive reasons for you choosing to do this that way.
I'd like to have a quick talk to obviously she has this voice that's incredibly arresting and has stylized elements and different things, but what she sings about is also very atypical for the genre of where she sits, and her lyrics are incredibly dark. She's obviously approaching themes of suicide, themes of self-harm. She's talking about, female empowerment in an interesting way that, enables agency in a way that, like female agency in a way that other pop artists do not. There's still a lot of, I'll be your, toy, I'll be your whatever.
Even beyond that, I'll be your.
Yeah.
It's not who I am. It's I'll be something
You're
in
something.
relation to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was obviously Bad Guy is a big one where it kind of sticks out for that sort of thing. But the line where she talks about, bruises on her knees, don't
Oh, yeah.
don't say thank you or that's not. I do it because I want to.
Yeah.
There's some really great female empowerment stuff that's not so. I want to say it's not like happy clappy female empowerment stuff. Like some of the other big.
Hear me roll.
Yeah, and it's just like.
Okay, but no shade on Helen Reddy.
No,
She's
Helen,
amazing.
Helen
We're
Reddy's
all
an Australian
yes.
legend. But
all about that, right?
Yeah.
But surely, and like middle class white male here, so I have no platform to judge any of this, but I think
if only there was someone that did. So
Kyria, I'm talking. I'm so sorry. No, but
and on Mardi Gras night.
so what I mean is surely being, and I don't know, maybe you might be able to comment on this, Kyria, but like surely it feels like that doesn't feel like that all the time. Like if you're struggling against just being in like a misogynistic society,
yeah.
you're not walking around all the time going, I am woman, hear me roar. Like that is hard and that is a niche market to be in.
Yeah.
What you feel more like is some of the ways that Billie projects that female empowerment sound is like, like this is strong here, but like, it's hard and sometimes it's really fucking depressing.
Yeah.
And you can connect with that. And the fact that it's depressing, you can connect with it goes, you know what? It's okay. Other people are doing that too. I can, push myself up and go on. Like, I feel like that's an easier in than just a straightforward.
Sometimes it's not Bad Guy, and even though she didn't write the lyrics to it, sometimes it's more when the party's over.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bad Guy is an interesting one because it is very much a
Tongue in cheek.
it's tongue in cheek. It's kind of poking the fun at a lot of songs that already exist and a lot of men, and it's always men. No, but
So many good lines in the album, but one of my favorites has got to be, I don't know what she says, but maybe it's because I'm wearing your cologne.
yeah, I know it is a great line. Yeah, but also she's talking about oh, you've got this whole persona. You're like, oh yeah, this is all about you. You think you're the bad guy and everything, but you've done nothing.
Yeah.
I am this type. I am the one who's doing this. I've got the bruises on my knee to show it. I've got all this stuff. And it is like, that's just who I am. It's not even necessarily her going, this is so great that I'm the bad guy. It's like, I'm the bad guy because this is what people are saying. And apparently that's not good enough for them. Okay, I'm a bad guy. Fine.
She's not Danny Zuko on the steps being like, I'm the man, I did this for the girl.
Yeah.
She's just sitting back, but like, oh yeah, we did this. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. What's your point?
And then when the album goes on and she expands on that and things like All the Good Girls Go to Hell, where she's
Speaking of themes that other people aren't, she managed to write a pop song about climate change. Excuse me? How do you do that and not have people notice straight away?
It's amazing.
And obviously there's darker songs as well when the party's over, obviously, but Goodbye and is probably the kind of the point on that album that is probably at its darkest. She's obviously talking about a dream, and they go into it in a heartbreaking scene in the film where she's writing the lyrics to it, and her mum comes in and says, "Is this legitimately how you feel?" And she's like, "Yeah," and it's like crushing. Like,
but also, I
for a
think that
parent
they
or
touched on it in a really good way in the documentary, in some ways.
Yeah,
because they didn't do a massive bit about it. It had a lot of impact because it was about 2 minutes long.
a moment in time.
It was a moment, and they're like, we can't just tell you don't feel this way. We can't just tell you don't write this song. And Phineas is sitting there going, looking very much like, I'm dealing with this the best way I can, which is trying to help her to get this out. And she says, I'm writing it into a song. I am singing about it, so I don't do it.
Yeah. And how often is that? And I think one of the giant preconceptions of mental illness is that, it'll just get better and it'll go away. Sometimes it's 2 minutes at a time, and you just need to help somebody get through those 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And then the next 2 minutes are going to be better. Sometimes it's much longer than that. Sometimes it's hours, sometimes it's days or weeks.
I think
But
that's a great point.
You don't have to, it's not just something that, you can just flick a switch or go to therapy and it'll be better. Sometimes things are so dark that, you really just need to be supervised for 2 minutes, or you need to write a song, or you need to do something to try and to help with that. And that needs to be made okay as well.
And just also a reminder, we will, in the comments of this video, have the numbers for Beyond Blue and Lifeline, because it is always important to remember that those services are there in Australia. There are services in other countries if you're listening to this or watching this in other countries. But, there is also a preconception that when you talk about suicidality, when you talk about you're feeling in that way, that those are the people who won't go ahead with it. And it's the ones that you don't hear from that will suicide to pull themselves back from it.
So there's also a bit in the documentary film, whatever we're calling it, where
Subsequent movie
Making
films.
of subsequent movie film.
here we go.
That's what every film is now to me.
It's all the subsequent movie film.
Did you know Godfather subsequent movie film was the first sequel to win an Oscar for Best Picture?
Cool. I love that transition that we've just done there. What I was going to say was that there's a scene that really hit me and made me recognize things that perhaps I had taken for granted before in the film. That was I think she was getting off a bus or something. Billie was getting off a bus, and there's a fan that yells out to her, "Your music saved my life." Mm-hmm. And I don't know, maybe it's just me being an ignorant middle class white man that kind of plays up the.
For those on just listening on the podcast, he is a white man.
Can
So
confirm.
He's telling the
Can
truth.
confirm is white. Very
Very
privileged.
white. Almost as white as Sam.
Nearly.
I'm just going to right now say a blanket. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Happy Mardi Gras.
There's nothing. Happy Margie.
Mardi Gras.
Margie. Fuck it. No, but there's this bit and she yells out that.
Saved my life.
And you saved my life. And I think there's a bit, and like Billie talks about it in other parts of the film as well, where she's writing some pretty dark stuff. She's writing some fairly depressing, like it's quite deep, intense content. I think intense is the right word to use. And it's, we talk about, like, there's a lot of like female empowerment type songs going around.
Yep.
And I am
More than just I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar from 40 years ago.
Yeah.
More that Eye of the Tiger Katy Perry one.
Yeah. But like, like if
Who makes an
you're
appearance?
a firework.
Yeah.
There's all this stuff, which is all quite happy.
WAP. Whole bunch of WAP.
Or Boys Will Be Boys off the
I'm going to say again, I'm sorry. No, but there's a lot of like happy clappy stuff.
Yeah.
Which I think if you're like, as white middle-aged man, middle class man,
It depends on your definition.
I feel bad for connecting. I'm Scottish, so 31 is probably middle-aged.
Possibly.
I think the average life expectancy is 34. But this has gone on way too long. What I'm trying to say.
I mean, you're going to have to write a written apology by the end of this.
So it's got to be the only way to get it out. That's what she said.
So that
Not
was
off the rails.
That was Paul Talks Female Empowerment, and so no, I think I get what you.
Is that it's easier to connect to it, and like surely it's easier to connect to something. It's like, hey, this is a struggle. This is real. I'm feeling this, and it's not fun. But I understand other people are going through what I'm going through.
Yep.
And the other part is that despite her being very articulate about her specific situation, the way in which she writes her lyrics makes it very accessible for people who are feeling things that are similar, but aren't feeling the same situation, and yet they can still relate to it.
Which I think is what has made her so popular.
Yeah.
With a certain demographic.
Yeah.
Which I think is great. The other thing I'd sort of connect to this, and this might be a side topic that Sam's not expecting because I've not mentioned it to him at all, is that what's going to happen now? No, but so Billie Eilish is pop.
Yeah.
She's pop purely because
Very
she's
popular.
popular.
like 100, like over 1 billion streams on
Yeah,
Spotify.
like she's massive.
Yeah.
But like, I think it's hard to define her.
like not
music.
literally quite small and tiny, like short, but yeah, no, massive. Like I get where you got.
She is quite short. I
is,
think she looks like it.
She looks relatively short. But
Either
who
that or
knows?
Phineas is a giant.
Let's hope it's both.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
No, but she's popular because she's popular.
Yep.
If you had to define her music, I think the closest thing she's got is grunge.
Ah.
Even like you take her the way she dresses and things like that. You take her aesthetic into it.
Yeah.
She's what grunge looks like in 2020.
Okay.
Billie Eilish is new grunge, post grunge,
New grunge. NU. For
NU.
New.
NG.
NU grunge.
NG.
Okay. God, well, I was going to say something similar as well in that I think that you were talking about how it makes people feel connected. The woman that shouted, your music saved my life. We all went to high school with people that were big Nirvana fans, and
Yes.
we obviously
Went to high school with yourself?
Yeah, I was a big Nirvana fan. And, so we, and I think Kurt Cobain was that for a lot of people. Obviously, it didn't end well for him. Spoiler alert.
Speaking of Kurt Cobain.
That's the way to say it.
Second beer portion, by the way, everybody. So if you're in your podcast and you don't
If you're playing along with us, it's time for the second beer.
if you're driving and listening to this podcast, maybe wait till you finish your first beer and then wait till you get to your destination before you open your second. But I think Kurt Cobain, obviously, wow, what a segue. Kurt is similar in that he obviously was dealing with some mental health stuff, didn't have the support system around him that Billie did.
Yeah.
So he's dead now. And he, a lot of people listen to his music and they say that it got them through some really tough times because they felt like he was speaking to them in his lyrics and that sort of thing. And I don't think that we've had somebody, and I'm happy to be corrected in the comments below.
Oh,
I don't think we've
definitely,
had somebody
matters.
as important to in a pop star style sense that has reached as many people and broached these topics in such a way and has been as important to people in the same way as Kurt has until now with Billie.
Let's, specify again. They've both said a few times they are middle-class white males. So that's really where they're coming from. Obviously, on Mardi Gras night, sure.
Cher?
Yeah.
She kind of predates
Not for me.
Kurt, though.
Not for you guys, but for others.
Yeah. For some people. I think so you've probably got some good points there. Multiple.
But also very much in terms of an international American, kind of reach as well. Being in Australia, that is something that is really something to be taken into account. We do get a portion of the American, pop,
Look at
rock kind of
You see the
output.
top 10s for like the UK, the US, and Australia, and they're wildly different because people connect with different things because there's different cultures.
And we have a requirement to play Australian music on the radio, which
I think is
it helps
good,
highlight
which
local
gets
artists.
ignored because they end up just playing AC/DC a couple of
Yeah,
times
yeah.
at 1 a.m.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
let's not get into that discussion because I will get grumpy. But I think so, and again, happy to be corrected.
Yeah.
At us at Under Over Dumpster Fire on Instagram.
Oh, please
or
do.
whatever.
That would actually be really nice for us to read some stories from people who have had these
yes.
kind of experiences
Who's
with
been an important
someone
artist
else
for
who's
you?
been important
Yeah.
in that way.
Connected with something that's really important, but I don't think there's been somebody as wide-reaching, in the way that. So I'm thinking
In a specific demographic as well, like that kind of 14 to 22.
I think the amazing thing about
thing.
Billie Eilish, right? So if I was 16, again, I would connect with Billie Eilish differently, but I would connect with Billie Eilish. Listening to the album nonstop on repeat over the last week or so,
Yeah.
shit, she's got me.
Yeah.
Like I was like, ooh, I understand and I'm still connecting with you, even though I'm, 10 plus years
Middle-aged.
old, 15 years older
White
than
man,
you or whatever.
yeah.
I don't know. I'm really interested to hear Kyria's opinion on this.
Yeah, so I do actually have.
I think she's got the best lyrics on an album since 2000.
Yeah, look, I mean, I would go further and say she, at very least, top 5 best lyrics debut album of anyone ever.
Oh, yep.
Possibly best.
Possibly best ever album. Full
Just
stop.
because there is also, like you say, there is something where if I was 16 listening to this music, I would 100% connect with it.
Yes.
Knowing my 16-year-old self, I'd be down in the deep with her. Like, just full on.
We talked about
Lights
Fallen
off.
on. We talked about Evanescence's Fallen on a past podcast,
Yeah.
and there's some really similar, and that was something that
Absolutely. And that was more produced, more poppy in the very traditional sense of poppy, more kind of, I guess, accessible pop. And they talk about that in the documentary too. But I've kind of had this, I guess, experience of thinking about this album for a while, coming into it more from more of an analytical side, more of a pragmatic side, when I was like, okay, well, I like that song. I've heard a lot of people going
Yep.
on and on about.
Yep.
It's an amazing artist, this album is so great. It's, done all of these things. So I go, cool. I've got this time. I'm going to be bored on a plane. It's not long enough for me to really get involved in a book, especially because I was hungover. I was in Barcelona at the time. Don't judge me. But
Sangria. It
yeah,
makes me
oh my
happy.
goodness, it does, and they make it different there. But it really was one of those situations where I could sit there and go, okay, I'm coming at this from an analytical standpoint. Let's listen to it. And I started listening to it analytically, and it convinced me across into a very emotional experience with it. Not like emotional, crying, whatever, what people assume emotional is. Emotionally connecting to it and emotionally feeling it.
You actually understanding what the fuck someone else is talking about.
Yeah.
Which is difficult at the best of times sometimes.
And I think the lyrics are something that make it into, these are stories that are transcendent for anyone who has been a teenager at any point in their life. I think that 50,
Which I
60
think
year
we all
olds,
have.
Yeah. But I think 50 and 60-year-olds could come to this and go, I remember how I felt at that time, and I can connect to that and also connect to what is still in me now. Because none of us, anyone who has ever been a 16-year-old, they still have...
17 or above.
Yes.
It's anyone 16 and above.
That's why she's a doctor.
Yeah, that's why. That's the only reason why. But no, anyone who's been 16 or older, they have those emotions. They have those feelings. They're not gone. Those are still in us.
Yep.
We build on top of those. There's a saying that, that your 16-year-old self is the worst person you're ever going to be, because you can't go down from there. Everything's gone crazy in your body. Everything's gone crazy in your mind. And everything you do after that, you build on it. And so you're always going to be a better person than you were at 16. Whether it's just like you've built on that and you're better at something, or whether you're just better because you've been bettering yourself the whole time.
Yeah.
And those base emotions are the most, like if you think of it as like, say, if you're a gamer and you're looking at your stats, these are the zeros that you have for all of these, different stats you have. And you're only ever going to build on it. But that first move that you got from picking up that stat, you always have that move.
Yeah.
So all of us know these feelings. And as now me, a 30-year-old, I know those feelings completely. I still feel them. I still have that connection to them. But I have, I guess...
do different things with them.
I do. And I have a maturity, would be the only word I can find to kind of go with that. A maturity of those emotions, because everything, my experiences, my understanding of those emotions, my understanding of myself has built upon them. And I think that's where the way she tells her story in these lyrics, the way she tells these different aspects of herself and different aspects of her relationships, they do have a transcendent quality to them, because they can hit that part of ourselves that's in all of us. Whether it's something that, like, Paul, you said that it took you a while to get into it.
Yeah.
You could understand that, though.
Yeah.
It's about whether you're really feeling, that kind of music, or you're really feeling whatever, but you can understand what the basis of that is.
Yeah, there's a different vibe when you put this album. So, like,
Yeah.
you hear a song from this album once on the radio, you're driving somewhere, you're in a car, and it floats past you.
Yep.
And you go, oh, here's one of those songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course it's getting played on the radio. It sounds nice.
Yeah.
And then you put it on and you're in your, so like in this case, in my week, it was in my office at home. And I put the whole album on. I put it from the start, from when she talks about her Invisalign.
Yep.
And then Bad Guy kicked in. I'm like, I've heard this before and I like it.
Yeah.
And it was, turn that up. And then Zanny comes on and you're like, oh, shit. Oh, we're going here.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the next song. And then the next song. And you go, oh, fuck, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, that's a completely different, more like, it's the same as like, I'm on a plane. There's literally nothing else I can do but listen to this. And it's not even, like you said, you're able to listen to it analytically. You're able to listen to it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's like something like I've tried to do when we've picked albums and I've gone, oh, I've not listened to that in ages.
Yeah, yeah.
I put it on and I try and just go, okay, you're not doing anything else. You're just listening.
Yeah.
And just see what the album makes you think.
Yeah.
Or feel.
Yeah.
And I think what you've explained just there, Kyria, is something I want to maybe touch on a little bit later when we wrap this up, is that we've started off talking about an album that was written, or at least co-written by a 17-year-old.
Yeah. 2 years ago.
We've been talking for like half an hour or so, and all we've talked as a bunch of 30-ish-year-olds is about how we feel.
Also,
that's incredible.
Can we also deal with the fact that the other writer on this isn't our age?
How old is Phineas?
He was, what, 21 at the time?
24 now, yeah.
Yeah. So also, even there, being able to get that maturity in songwriting, song creating, and producing,
Yep.
and being able to bring the intimacy of her voice out and really have people connect to it, that as well takes a maturity that...
Can we go
It's
back
crazy.
to a second? There was this scene in the film where Phineas, as when her mom comes in and goes, oh, are you still talking about this? And Phineas is sitting there and he's been just playing some keys for Billie.
Yeah, yeah.
She sings and writes the song. He's fully aware of what Billie is writing and singing about.
Yeah, yeah.
He's fully aware and he's going, this is my little sister here expressing these feelings and emotions to me. What the do I
And
do?
throughout this documentary, it shows just how close the two of them are as well.
Oh.
So
And he's
his
just so
maturity in
like,
that.
I need to let Billie be Billie and express herself, but also I'm just gonna keep her here. Like, like I need to just make sure you're fine.
Yep.
Do we need to write a song?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Phineas is incredible.
So, like, let's talk a little bit about the songs. I think that they're ordered quite well.
Yeah, can we actually talk about this?
Because we talked about this during the week.
songs that are on the album.
No.
I'm talking about.
The album.
Yeah.
The fact that this is 2021 now, but it came out 2019, 2019, yeah.
Won all those Grammys.
Yeah, but also,
By
how
all
long
those
has it
Grammys, we
been?
mean all of the Grammys.
All the Grammys.
What new artists do you know? Like, it's something that's starting to come back, but writing an album, a proper album, start to finish album, concept from start to finish. That's what this is.
It's an entire vibe. It's about Marvel. It's, you know, it's a collection.
You genuinely just said that. That's awesome.
It's one of my favorite things.
It's Marvel.
No, but it's an entire collection. I think we mentioned this in last week, potentially. No, the week before in Your Honor.
Yeah.
And like that was a double album. And like there was a real vibe towards the end of the MP3 CD era before Spotify and Tidal and Apple Music and all that sort of thing became a thing, where albums were it. Like you had to write an album. You couldn't write a single and just put a single.
Yeah.
Which is what Billie and Phineas did
Yeah.
for a couple of years before they released.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we all fall asleep, where do we go?
Yep.
So to pull all of that together in this climate and have people recognize it as a collection.
And it has been something that
Unbelievable.
other artists are bringing out, but they're very established artists that are doing it.
Yeah.
So obviously Dua Lipa, you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, it was a great
Yeah.
album.
We know, Lady Gaga's Chromatica, again, full album, start to finish.
Yeah.
With a story across it.
Yep.
I don't know how strong that story was for that one.
I'd
but-
shout out the new Disclosure album, Energy, as well.
Absolutely,
as
yeah.
a really, it's a double as well, but there is definitely a thematic run, and they're a band that typically do singles as well. But yeah, so like they've crafted a whole album. here on When We Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? The songs are ordered, I think, quite well in that, you know, you ride the wave emotionally and then you come out of it in quite a good way. But we were talking during the week, Kyria, and you said that thematically it doesn't flow quite as well.
So thematically, it doesn't flow necessarily. But I think that the very last track really does speak to why it works.
Yeah. Where they go through everything backwards.
Yeah. Yeah. So
That
the last
blew my
track.
mind the first time I listened to it this week.
There's a lot of people who kind of dismiss this last track. There's a lot of people who go, oh, it's something that's just thrown on the end to kind of bring it all together. But I think having watched the documentary, it's really solidified how I approach this last track.
Yeah.
Particularly from Phineas's standpoint. And that's that
incredible.
if you think about the name of the album, When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? This entire album is you having dreams and nightmares across a night.
Yeah.
And you come out the end, and when you wake up, you remember flashes of all the dreams. You remember strong emotion moments from these dreams.
I had
and they
some last
slowly-
night, actually. We had
Yeah.
cheese.
Yeah, you
too
had
much
cheese dreams.
And I had cheese dreams. Paul had started a travel show with my old housemate.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
He's never met her. Doesn't matter. They're on
Traveling.
they're
And it
doing a
totally
travel
makes
show.
sense in the dream.
Go away, get away.
And from, you know, as crazy as that to as benign as I found a little attachment for my headphones
Yeah.
that I'd lost. Yeah.
And you have that moment where you wake up where you're still half asleep and you're waking up and you're thinking and you're getting these little glimpses of all these dreams and nightmares that you've had over the night, and they're falling away. And obviously we know dreams are incredibly important for psychological development, for mental health. They do help us when you're
Dr.
in...
Kyria Webster with the
I
frontal
know
lobe.
this is where the neuroscience
lobe.
actually helps. But you work through a lot of problems in your dreams, and you work through a lot of struggles, a lot of moments during the day that, you know, even just things where you feel like you could have done something differently. These things do actually manifest in our dreams. It's incredibly important during our REM cycles that we go through this. And so when you're waking up, you're getting these glimpses of the things. And sometimes we even get full dreams and you're sitting there going, oh, this was so real. And it was this and this. And you're like, oh, I got to remember to go and tell someone. You go and tell them later and you're like, I don't know, it was this thing. And I mean, I think you were there.
And so that you
Pretty
think...
sure it was you.
So you think that's where the lines from each song going backwards? To
Yeah,
the
it's
thing.
going backwards and you're losing these moments, and how important it was to put this out. How important it was for her to write these moments, these stories. And they're kind of just slowly going, okay, we're putting them down on paper, and so we don't have to carry them anymore. We can put these down and have them all there. And it works well to bring it all together. It works well to kind of solidify the album, but it also does, you know, make sense from a thematic standpoint that when you are dreaming, you do jump in and out of these different feelings. You jump in and out of what it is that you're dealing with. You're dealing with this thing, and then you see a coworker who you have like a bit of a, you know, problem with, and they're there and you get to see them kicked off a cliff and you're like, yay. And then you have to deal with the fact that you were happy about someone getting kicked off a cliff. And so that's jumping over this way over here, and then you're all in your head about your self-consciousness, about your own, you know, and it's all over the place. And there is a level to which these thematically don't follow a clear narrative, but they do follow someone who's just slowly trying to work through
The end
all
narrative that's an album about dreams and nightmares.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And welcome to Under Over Dumpster Fire, now sponsored by Science.
Well, we've been talking a while about the album, and I think it's probably time that we start to wrap things up by doing 2 more full segments. And so I want to have a quick chat about how it was received.
Oh, yes.
How
was it
at the
received?
time, I'd say then and now, but it's been out for 2 years. So
Yeah.
really, how well...
And we all know it won all of the Grammys.
It won a lot of
All
Grammys,
of
so
the
obviously
Grammys.
very well received there. Metacritic has 82 out of 100. Metacritic, obviously an aggregate
82.
critical site.
All right, so let's break that down to an 8 out of 10.
Yep. All Music had it 4.5 stars. Daily Telegraph 4 stars out of 5. Guardian 4 stars. Irish Times 4 stars. NME gave it 5 stars.
Yeah, they
Paul.
mentioned that
They
in
came
the-
through
You
for
give
you.
it 5? Oh,
I'm pretty sure they mentioned that one, or was it
Enemy.
Rolling Stone in the documentary? They said you just got 5 stars.
Yeah, it might have been the NME one. Yeah.
It was.
I think it was
remember
NME,
that because
yeah.
I remember being furious. because
Pitchfork gave it 7.2 out of
notoriously
10.
disagree
Yes.
with NME.
Q was 4 out of 5. Rolling Stone gave it 3.5 out of 5. The Times 4.
And I think
And
Anthony
Vice,
Fantana gave it 9.
He gave it an 8 or a 9. Yeah, he did,
He
didn't he?
did.
So,
He agreed with me that it's a great set of tracks, and that the only one you'd skip is 8.
therefore, it gets a 9.
Stacey Anderson of Pitchfork credited When We All Fall Asleep success to Eilish's, quote, creepy eccentricity, which if you've seen, the album cover or the video clip
Any
for
of the video clips.
When the party's over and she's bleeding out of her eyes, or You Should See Me
Any of the video
in a
clips.
Crown where she has a
I
tarantula.
would argue you
coming
haven't.
out of-
Favorite song.
I would argue you haven't gotten out if you think that's creepy eccentricity. I really would. I don't think it's creepy. I think it's actually pretty normal, and it's
When she's doing the grudge thing, climbing the wall in the
except
very
the
frame.
tarantula bullshit.
Yeah, that-
What is wrong with you, Billy?
So
What is wrong with you?
I think you're wrong if you think that's what makes the album good.
No,
That too,
she goes on, obviously, which helps distance her from her music industry's historically lewd maceration of teen idols, which is still continuing
Done
with
really well with that.
the Grandes of the world. Obviously, the latest Britney documentary
Hashtag Free Britney.
has shone a big light
Yeah.
on it, and she eschews that completely.
And she has talked about how her physical appearance, about how she, looks in any way. She has articles coming out. Oh, do you think that Billy's pregnant? It's bullshit stuff. But she is a good-looking, blonde girl with big tits, and that's going to be fetishized by people, and she knows that, and she doesn't want people looking at her that way. And but
done
she
such a
also
good
loves
job.
fashion.
Yeah.
She loves fashion. She loves expressing herself through style. And I think, she has done a really good job.
of being eccentrically bold and just you've created a style that you control everything.
Yes,
Like,
absolutely.
No one else can tell you anything about Billie Eilish and the way she looks because Billie Eilish has already told you everything you need to know. And it's I'm so impressed with how she's been able to manage that because I can't tell you another female artist that has been able to just plow through that barrier because it's a real fucking barrier.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Especially in the major label system,
Yeah.
which Billy's a part of. So, touching on what we've obviously touched on over the past 45 minutes, curator Dorian Linsky categorized the release as a surprising haunting album that will speak powerfully both to her peers and to anyone who remembers how youth can sometimes feel like an overwhelming weight.
Hey, that's what I said. Yeah.
What you just said.
Applauded Eilish's
magazines.
ability to discuss the sentiments of her generation.
Yeah.
So, pretty well received.
Yeah.
So, forward review time
Solid 8 out of 10 received.
for everybody, pretty much.
8 out of 10 plus 6 or 7 Grammys.
Yeah.
Every category it was nominated for, which it was nominated for every category it possibly could have been.
Do you want to hear just a bad review just because people are dicks?
There's a bad review.
Yeah.
Of course there is.
Roisin O'Connor was more critical in The Independent, panning its production as, quote, subpar, and the record is dull and bloated overall.
Who's that from? Roisin O'Connor.
I don't think
Roisin
either
O'Connor
of-
from The Independent.
Yeah, well, you can
Go
independently
get
go
to
fuck
fuck.
yourself. Anyway, so I'm sure
Wrong.
I'm sure you do good work, maybe.
I'm sure your work on politics is much better than your work on music.
I mean, I doubt it. I'm sure she's
I don't know.
trying to
yeah.
put herself in the shock jock position there.
That's just and it happens a lot with critics these days.
It's just wrong.
And we try not to do it here, and we don't even get paid to do this, obviously.
Even though our podcast is called Under
But there
and
is-
Over and
is we
Dumpster
don't try
Fire.
to dump on things just for the sake of dumping on them.
And I think the fact that we don't get paid for this is possibly why we're able to be happy.
Yeah,
life.
it's so, yeah,
Well,
we're not
it's even
clickbaiting.
the I remember rating Green Day's latest album, not the network Green Day, because the network's not Green Day.
No.
As a dumpster fire. having said that, in that podcast, we're very complimentary of Green Day. We were just like,
Yeah,
this is-
we spent most of the time talking about the good albums.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we were just like, this wasn't very good. This is not your best work by a long shot, but you're great, and I'm sorry.
Yeah. That's why we haven't done a Greta Van Fleet episode. Like, we don't, if we give you a dumpster fire rating, it's because you've either done better in the past or you could do better in the future. But now we're going to do our forward reviews.
Yep.
All right? Did we prepare this week, Paul?
I prepared this.
Yes.
I thought about it.
So I
about
also
it?
prepared. So forward review, you give a review in 4 words. It's pretty straightforward. Come on, people, like get on top of it.
Do it.
So my my 4-word review is: popularity doesn't prohibit greatness.
Whoa.
Just because this album is popular, and Phineas talks about it in the thing, he was really worried, or Billie was quite worried, that because they would make something accessible and popular, that it would in some way taint their art. And it doesn't. You can be really great and you can do things that are popular. We talked about Led Zeppelin 4 in relation to Californication last week. There's a lot of really popular albums out there that are really great albums too.
Yeah.
And this is definitely one of them for me. Paul,
Yeah.
what's your forward review?
Century's greatest album.
That's 3 words.
Duh.
Jeez, I went into that one. Jeez.
Oh.
That
Oh, we didn't even rehearse it.
whoa.
Yes.
That's amazing. Century's greatest album, duh.
Duh. Look,
That's pretty self-explanatory, really.
It is. And I did some research on this because I'm like, that's a big call to make.
Yes. So I agree, and it might be out there. I think it's the best album of the decade. It probably runs really close with like To Pimp a Butterfly by Kendrick. But I've listened to this album and enjoyed it a lot more than Kendrick, so
Therefore,
that
it's
probably
better.
helps me over. Of the Century is a little hard. We were talking about this on
The
text last
Century's
night.
been going for 2 decades.
And,
Is there anything in the first decade that's better?
In Rainbows by Radiohead.
That's
No.
better than this?
Yes.
Look at In Rainbows again. It's not.
I think it is.
So Sam messaged me this. I didn't tell him that was my forward review, but I was like, I think this might be the best.
Paul's like, we're going to start a fight though.
Yeah, it's gonna be anyway. So I've got this. So because we all know that Rolling Stone is the definitive music authority. They're not.
We are.
Yeah. Don't at me. All right. So 100 best albums of the 2000s.
Okay.
We're just gonna do top 10 because that's all that really fucking matters. Kanye West, College Dropout.
And so what are we going to do? Is it better or worse, right?
Is it better or worse?
So which is better?
Kanye West, College Dropout,
Worse.
or yeah,
Yeah, it's a good album, but it's worse.
It's
Yeah.
Kanye West.
Yeah.
I don't care
Worse.
which album.
MIA Kala,
Worse.
What?
Bill,
No.
Bob Dylan, Modern Times,
Worse.
Bob Dylan's never done the best version of any song he's ever written.
Marshall Mathers LP?
the Marshall Mathers LP,
Worse.
Eminem.
Who? Rolling Stone? Okay, Rolling Stone. We need to have a conversation.
Yeah. Oh, you're pretentious. Go fuck off. Also, if you want to,
It would have gone longer than that. It would have gone longer than that. But also
No.
that.
Arcade Fire. We don't need to say anything else.
My goodness.
The White Stripes,
Oh, I
Elephant.
like that album.
Okay, Elephant. Look, that was an important album. This is better.
This is better though. It is.
I do think it's
about
better.
the entire album. This one's better. The whole album is better than that whole album.
Yeah, no, you're right.
8's better than that album.
Jay-Z, The Blueprint.
Get the fuck out of here with that shit.
Number 3, Wilco, Yankee Hotel Foxtrot.
Some people
I haven't heard it, but
really,
people
some
really like
people
this.
really like that album. really
You've
like
not heard it, therefore it's not the best.
Okay,
it's
sure.
not better. Like if it was better, we would have heard it.
I want to get a Strokes fan on for the next one to have an argument with about.
The
Because-
Strokes.
Is the Strokes are the most overrated band in the history of music?
Oh
and
shit!
Is This It? Is
Oh, he
is
went
Exhibit
there.
A?
Okay, if you're a Strokes
which
fan,
is funny,
let us
'cause
know. Come
Billie-
on, we'll chat.
Because Billie Eilish loved their latest album and has gone on record regularly talking about how great she thought it was, and it's the biggest disagreement I've had with Billie personally.
Okay,
I haven't
so
been able to text her about it.
In other
but-
words, we need to bring on someone to talk about that Strokes album and a big old pot of tea.
yeah.
And number 1 of the 20 of the 2000s, of the noughties.
So they didn't even put
They didn't even put in rainbows.
Kid A.
Kid A.
Yeah, Kid A. There's some filler on there.
Yeah, cool. So Billie Eilish, best album since Billie was born.
No, it's in rainbows, but
All right, 2010s LCD stereo system. This is the happening.
Look.
Pistol Annie's, Adele 21.
Great album.
Lord Melodrama.
Good album.
It's close. It's Billie did what you were doing better.
yes, she did.
Drake, Take Care. David Bowie, Black Star.
Oh, I
doesn't
love
count.
that album. I love
Black
it
Star's
so
Taylor
really good.
Swift, Red. Compare the entire album. Kendrick Lamar to Pimp a Butterfly. Beyonce Lemonade. Kanye West.
Look, Lemonade is
My
amazing.
Beautiful, dark, twisted fantasy.
And again, I'll say Lemonade is amazing.
But
it's comfortably top 3. Comfortably.
So I
Like you have
Yeah.
to think about it to knock it off number 1.
yeah.
yeah, that's true.
So my top 3 of the last 20 years is, and I texted this to you last night, I haven't thought of a better one, is In Rainbows number 1, probably this Billie Eilish album, and then Untrue by Burial, which is the hipsterest of picks.
I had to
look
whip
it
up.
Wilco?
But yeah,
No?
comment down below and let us know what your favorite album of the last 20 years is, and is it this one? Because it's polls, duh.
Duh.
Kyria, what's your 4-letter review?
So I had a lot of trouble with this. Yeah. Because I had 2 that I was tossing up between, and if I could throw the 4-word out, I would just say that my review is "You should see me in a crown."
That's pretty good.
But it is 6 words. So
See me in a crown?
no, it doesn't work. That's the problem. I couldn't find any confirmation that worked that way. But I have 2 different ones that I do find, work really well.
Cool.
And one of them is like a movie title, and it's Teen Retrospective, Black Champagne. And that's how I really view this album.
That's the Rolling Stone article title.
Yeah, that's the headline style. That's the headline. The more evocative one is We Are All This.
Oh, yes.
That's good too.
Because it's really how I think everything about this album, the lyrics, the songwriting, the production of how intimate it is with a person, it is produced so it is in your head and you are immersed in it.
Yeah.
And no matter what, like I have very little connection to the song 8. It's a fine song. I think it's a good song. I'll skip it because the other songs are so
can't wait to get to
involved for me. Like, I feel incredibly involved in it and nothing about the song. And as someone who has been a musician for longer than I've been most other things,
A doctor.
I started when I was 3. So I really do mean most other things.
Before you're a doctor.
Way before I was a doctor. It's something that none of the music stops me. Sometimes music does stop me from really enjoying stuff, which does annoy me. Because it's very pretentious.
You is it that you unintentionally analyze and criticize
it does kick me out of it because I'm thinking about, well, that's not,
Yeah.
that doesn't make much sense from a musical standpoint.
Yeah.
This should be this, or they could have done this instead. But
Yeah.
none of it kicks me out.
I'll just wait.
It's
for
one of the
conversion.
reasons we didn't have Kyria on the episode last week about the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah, speaking of annoying voices, Anthony Kiedis.
But this album doesn't do that for you. It
No.
keeps you in.
At no
the-
point does it kick me out.
We are all this.
So a lot of people, it wasn't
great.
in the list there, in the top 20s of many people. We obviously rated a lot higher. This would probably make it a bit of a slam dunk. I'm obviously going to give it an underrated.
I think it's important because I was like, oh, it's obviously underrated. And I'm like, it won 6 or 7 Grammys.
Yeah.
How can I possibly say it's underrated? But average review was 8 out of 10.
Yep.
I've decided that my new rating system is I'm going to assume that everything's a 10 out of 10 and you will lose points.
Oh, like in boxing.
Yeah.
So every round,
10 must.
10-10.
A must-10system, yeah.
And I'm going to knock points off for being shit.
Yeah.
I can think of a reason to take a point off it. Oh. Like I can't, like, like there's probably no, I can't critically look at it and go, oh, you should have done that differently. No, even like 8, that was the perfect point to go
And breathe.
and then dive into the second half of the album.
Yeah.
Great, fantastic. Yeah, I get you skip it, but well fucking done having that, because otherwise it'd be too intense.
Yeah.
And some people need that breather. I think like you're obviously a lot better adjusted than I am, and I really needed that. I needed the ukulele. Yeah. I've never said that before in my life. I hate these small guitars. They're terrible. I can't believe Eddie Vedder did a whole album with one.
Oh no, we can.
It drives me mad, but I needed it on this one time.
Yeah.
So it's got to be underrated. It can't, like, I think that the reasons it's been rated, like when you read out the reviews before, I think the reasons that they gave for giving it a good review were subpar reasons.
Yeah.
There's better reasons for giving it a good review. So it's underrated.
Yeah.
Russia gave it #1 best foreign album of 2019. Just Kyria, overrated, underrated, or is it a dumpster fire?
Well, clearly from what I've been talking about, you know that I'm going to talk about this as a dumpster fire. No, obviously not. Like, how could I? No, okay. When it comes to the reviews, I agree with the 10 must system. Like, I think that you do need to be able to find things that take you away from it being a 10.
Yeah.
I do think there are things that I can take away from it.
Kyria's a better musician than I am.
But also, it's a debut album. Even if it was a debut album at my age, at 30, doing anything, I'd still look at this and go, this is a masterpiece.
Listen to the Beatles' first album. It's good, but it's not a 10 out of 10.
It's true. It's really true. And so I would still say this is underrated because I don't think it's an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
It's better than an 8 out of 10.
I think it's at very least a 9.5 out of 10.
Yeah. Like, to knock it down from the 10, you're picking.
Yeah,
Like,
and you
you're
do have
being
to be. Yeah.
hyper fucking critical.
Yeah.
Which I think is fair in a rating system. But
And I
it's
also think,
underrated.
there's,
So underrated.
if you're looking at it from a musical standpoint, there's a lot of people who could be like, well, they could do this or they could do this. But again, from an artistic standpoint, which is also musical, those reasons that they have moved, they have not done these
They've
things
made
that you could
great
change
choices.
it, are there for evocative reasons. They are there for emotive reasons, and they bloody well work.
There was a scene, and I'm extending this section of the podcast. Sorry. Fuck the police. No, but there's a scene really early on in the film where they change a word in a song, and they change it from like can't to won't or won't
Can't
to can't.
to won't, and it's in Bury a Friend,
Yes.
and they are talking about the little bridge bit in the middle, and it's
Yes.
about my eyes won't close or my eyes can't close, and why it needs to be won't.
It's the being able to critically, because it's fine if you left that. 98% of people aren't going to notice and aren't going to care. Actually, probably 100% of people aren't going to notice and aren't going to care.
Yeah.
But you've changed it, and because you have, it's better.
Yeah.
Like the detail they've put into those bits, every choice they've made is important. And every time there's been an important part of something, they've made a choice.
And to Kyria's point about it being a debut album as well is terrifying because the songwriting maturity for people that have been doing it 5-ish years at a high level is just off the charts. And it's I'm so excited about. They say they've got 16 in the bag, 16 songs ready to go.
Really?
They've had a whole year where they couldn't tour. They did this while they were touring as well.
Yeah.
So they like pasted this together while they were doing like every tour under the sun. They went to Australia. That's here. They went to America. That's there. And they went everywhere and recorded the album in between. They've had a whole year to sit at home. Finney's built a new studio. It's going to be amazing. I'm so
Also,
excited.
even if
Finney's
you
is
just look
incredible.
at what this album did, what this album was, and then you look at the singles that have come out since then.
Oh yeah.
Her
Everybody I
Future,
wanted my future.
everything I wanted.
Yeah. Therefore
You,
I am.
you look at Therefore I Am.
Oh, brilliant.
These songs show she's really revealing a lot of herself in all of her music. She's done this, and we've been able to see things like, if you haven't already seen it up on YouTube, I think it was Vogue did it.
Or the Vanity Fair.
Or Vanity Fair, sorry. Did yearly interviews
Yeah.
with her, and you get to see in real time a teenager growing and reacting to themselves.
Yeah.
And
It reminds me of the 7-Up films that they do. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're seeing this in her music. We're seeing this new strength. We're seeing these new ideas about herself, these kind of differences in how she's seeing these things. Not resolution completely, but resolving parts of the struggles that she's gone through.
Yep.
It's development.
Absolutely.
I think that's the main thing that you
Yeah.
see. Like, you see things progress, and it means something.
And
you
you
can
see-
tell it in the music.
You see other artists progress in their music. You see them progress in their artistic output, their production, their musicality. She is giving us all of that. Plus, she's giving us a development in her character.
Yeah.
She's giving her a development in her mental attitude, in her self-critical analysis, and she's giving it to the people who listen to her music, which is a real gift.
It's amazing.
Yep.
It's genuinely incredible.
So that was us talking about when we fall asleep, where do we go?
Have we found out where we do go?
Bed.
comment? Let us
Where
know.
do we go, people? Where do we go?
Maybe that's on the next album, potentially. But we've all given it an underrated, so we think that it's people
At
thought it
least
was
a 9
good.
out of 10.
We thought it was a lot better. Let us know what you think of it, whether you think it's underrated or overrated. And if you haven't listened to it, and like as was with the three of us, where we avoided it a little bit because it was popular and she had a vibe, and everybody was talking about her, and
As people say to me,
When
it
you-
was a moment.
when you're 30, you suffer from a lot of tall poppy syndrome. But I would encourage people to do what we've been doing with Schitt's Creek this year. What we've been doing with a lot of things that sometimes people are like, maybe not Bridgerton, but maybe things that like people get really excited about that are quite popular, and they recommend them to you. Give them a go. And I'm going to be doing that in the future because Paul's on an upcoming podcast, which is a bit of a tease. Paul's going to be sitting me down and with his better half, Sophie, and we're going to be watching Hamilton.
Yeah. Better.
Which is a thing I've managed to not see.
I don't know how he's not seen it.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Look, it's hard to avoid, and at the same time, we're in Australia, so it's easy to avoid.
Yeah.
So we're going to be watching that, so stay tuned for that. But we normally wrap up our episodes with a quick round of what have you been listening to lately, which I've also folded into a what I think Paul would like.
AKA Paul, listen to more music.
God damn it, Paul. So, Kyria, just because you're on the end and we'll go this way, what have you been listening to lately?
Totally discriminatory, but I'll take it. What have I been listening to? Well, you two gave me homework, so I've been listening to this. Rude.
I feel like that every single
Yeah. but no, also I have been listening to, in advance of their new album coming out, I've been listening to the most recent Mochiba album, which came out in 2018, and they brought out the deluxe in 2019.
Are you a big Mochiba fan?
I'm a massive Mochiba head. I have loved them since I was in primary school. Fragments of Freedom was like my jam. Rome Wasn't Built in a Day was like the hit of my childhood. I loved it. But they brought out an album called Blaze Away in 2018. It's, as Sam was saying when I played it for him, it's amazing for a band to be able to be so true to their own sound, to not have abandon it, but still be able to develop in their own sound
amazing.
and really develop who they are as a band. And it's still very much them. It's still this super cool kind of chill lounge with a bit of, Afro-Caribbean kind of style to it.
Great.
It's so much fun, and I really love the melodies in that album, and I'm so happy that they're still just as good as they've always been, and I can't wait for their new album this year. So
Yeah.
That's great. Very cool.
Paul, what have you
I
been listening to? Did you do your homework?
So I listened to. So I did listen to the Joy Formidable.
Ah, awesome. What'd you think?
They're fine. No. Okay, no. So set last week. If you
The joy
listened,
permissible, according to Paul. Yeah, it's
I will give it the joy permissible. It was a little bit too hardcore.
too hardcore.
Ooh,
Like-
someone get this
like-
boy some cream.
Like how hardcore? Like Legend of the Rent.
It was way hardcore.
Okay.
No, it was good. Like it was fine. Like I enjoyed it. I had a good time.
Yep.
It was a 7 out of 10.
Oh, yeah.
Which that's a good rating.
That's pretty good. On
I,
your must
I have
system.
to be very clear that a 5 is still a good rating. A 5 is anyone can listen to this album and it's fine.
Yeah.
That's what a 5 means for me.
Paul's saying that he has negatives in his ratings.
Yeah. No, a 5 is actually 0, and you have +5 and you have -5.
Oh, okay.
Right? That's how, because 5 is the middle point of a 10
It's
scale.
a median.
So that's the way we're viewing it. So it's a 7. So that's a
I'm checking with the doctor. The median, right? 5 out of 10.
Well, I mean, it would be the average. The median is just the most likely of the integers.
7.
7.
Actually, yeah, most of the time.
Most of the time it's 7. Anyway, so
What have you been listening to?
I listened to that. Obviously, I listened to the Wiggles
Oh yeah.
Like a version.
because the Wiggles decided that they were going to do Tame Impala and like a version, and it was amazing.
I love their quote when they asked them why'd you do this, and they're like, we really like animals.
It's
They
they've done
no
such a
beyond
good
that. They're
job
like,
of
we
being
really
the
like
Wiggles.
animals. We really like elephants. Also, Tame Impala's great.
Yeah, we love Kevin Parker. So yeah, no, listen to some Wiggles. The Vanities were going to be right on brand here. There's
Yeah.
a cool Seven West punk band called the Vanities. Who
You're like
released-
an A&R rep for them at this
I
point.
am.
Like,
I should be getting paid. Pay me. No, they released a great song called "I'd Rather Die Than Have a Job and a Tie." Yeah, cool. So no, that was quite good.
yeah.
Again, that was probably a 7 or 8 out of 10, but again, that's a fairly promising rating.
Yeah.
From a shitty British punk band that's got like 10 songs or something. Yeah, so listen to that. And a lot of Billie Eilish.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Yeah.
I think that's it. All right.
What did you listen to, Sam?
I did
Get your
a
notepad and pen ready. Sam's got 17 albums to list.
so I
Be on screen here. Scrolling. Scrolling.
so I listened to the new Julian Baker album, which was good, which I mentioned before. I can't remember the name of it now.
Brilliant.
Little Oblivions, I think.
Well, this is not
Something
boding
like that.
well
It'll
for
come
his
up-
rating of it.
It'll come up on the screen.
Here.
But I didn't listen to as much new music this week. I actually, after I listened to Billie and I talked about,
I just remember
and I
what else
thought
I
about
listened
what, and where I listened to Billie and I was thinking about Kurt, and so I went back and listened to Nevermind really loudly in my room, and it was a lot of fun. And I
Yeah?
was like, "Geez, that album's it still sounds
Can
amazing."
attest, was very loud.
Yeah, Kyria was in the other room, and I was just when In Bloom hits, like, oh my.
Look, I gotta say,
Lord, it's
RuPaul's
so
Drag
good.
Race really hits differently with Nirvana in the background.
So that I listened to a bit of that, and I also
a week of grunge.
yeah,
Billie Eilish and Nirvana, because they're both grunge.
and I also dug up some Death from Above, 1979, which are a great two-piece Canadian punk band thing that that my brother Micah got me onto last year, and I don't know if I've shouted them out on the podcast yet. So, but it definitely fits in the vibe of things I think Paul will like.
Cool. So what am I listening to?
Death from Above, 1979.
Death from Above, not a problem at all. I also I remember what else I listened to was Children Collide.
Oh yes,
I forgot they were a thing. They were a real moment in time. I remember
we went
seeing
to
them.
Revolver.
We saw them at Revolver.
Yeah.
I saw them support probably The Living End,
Yeah.
I think. And then was like, oh my God, everybody has to come
Yep.
see this band. And we saw them at Revolver. Sam was like, the lead singer is drinking red wine from the bottle while on the stage. That's amazing. That must be really cheap. I think that was your call.
That's what we
Yeah,
thought,
that was you're like, oh my God, that's much cheaper than beers.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. It really depends on the bottle of wine. And
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and say it was probably Bowler's Run.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
It looked like a headache waiting to happen. Now that I know what I know,
Yeah.
But at the time, it looked very rock and roll.
It did look very rock and roll at the time. But yeah, so I went back and listened to Children Collides.
Great tracks from
And yeah, it held up. I listened to I can't remember the name of the album now, but the album that was out at that time, their first big one.
Yep.
And yeah, it was great. It was really, really good.
Fantastic. So check those out. Obviously, there's lots of new music out at the moment, but there's also some old stuff for you to check out. There's a lot of bands playing at the moment here in
Go see the
Melbourne.
bands.
So if you're in Australia...
We should also say that because it's Mardi Gras night, Montaigne did just debut her new Eurovision single.
So check it
Go
out.
check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which we'll be doing after the podcast finishes because we were filming while she was debuting it.
No, we weren't actually. It happened while we were making dinner.
Oh, no.
Very sad.
Cool. Yeah.
We will listen to that, and you guys should too. But there's a bit of live music happening, so go out and see a band if you are lucky
COVID
enough
safe.
to live in Australia.
And if you're a live music venue and love to have a podcast from your venue before a band goes
that'd
on,
be amazing.
let us know because
That'd
we're
be so
keen on
cool.
that.
That'd be great.
We'll come in. We'll come and chat to some bands and stuff.
Yeah. So next week we're talking to my brother Jacob, who has been on the most popular podcast episode when we talked about Childish Gambino's Because the Internet. He's here in all his visual glory to talk about
Many have said.
Jet's
Visual glory.
debut album Get Born. So if you want a little bit of a walk down early 2000s memory lane of Australian rock and roll, come to your YouTube venue.
Come to a YouTube near you.
Come to the closest YouTube near you or the closest Spotify and have a listen to us talk about Jet's Get Born. So that'll be next week with
Which I'm
Cole and I and
so
Jacob.
excited about.
Yes. Well, we've been giving that a few spins this week as well.
Yeah.
It's loud. And so that's us. So we talked about Billie Eilish's When We Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? We gave it 3 underrateds. We think it's very good. Paul thinks it's the best album of the century.
No, it is. We've discussed
And
this.
I think In Rainbows is. But that's okay because we live in a democracy where we can disagree about these sorts of things and we'll take our fight off air.
Yeah.
So we will see you next time. And until next time, wait. No, that's not the sign-off.
No.
You have a sign
See you
off?
on
We
the-
have a sign-off. We'll see you when you flip the side.
Or when we decide that Billie Eilish is better than In Rainbows.